For the past 21 years, DVDs have been the dominant force when it comes to buying physical media, to watch your favourite film, to play the last generation of video games, and just generally keeping backups of operating systems and digital files alike. Even in 2016, DVDs are still with us, an ancient technology by anyone's standard. They only exist today because they're cheap to produce and, like it or not, people like physical copies of stuff. That's great and all, but why are you telling me all this? Firstly, because I'm definitely fun at parties, and secondly because DVDs, despite being laughably easy to rip nowadays, serves as one of the few DRM measures made by the film, music and video game industry to still exist. And yes, current gen elitists, Blu-rays are just as easy to rip too, so you're not safe either. That was a long-winded way of me saying, this is the episode where we talk about DRM and why convenience beats piracy. For those who saw last week's episode on how Uplay and Origin suck when it comes to selling games and just generally not being that nice to buy from, you'll remember that I said the word DRM a lot. I won't go into too much detail on every DRM method that exists, I'd be here for quite a while, but I will re-explain what the term DRM means and the few key examples that's in everyday use. In retrospect, I should have done this last time. Origin, Uplay and, yes, believe it or not, Steamworks are all types of DRM. DRM, or Digital Rights Management, is either a piece of code or a hardware device planned in a game, software, hell even Windows 10 has DRM in it so you can't swap out motherboards too easily. It's used more prominently by the film, music and video games industry as a way to exert control of what they make, and so nobody copy-pastes their game from one PC to a friend's PC. You can't run around with a free copy of GTA 5 now, can you? That's the general rundown of it, so what are the types of DRM, because there's more than one type. As I said, I'd be here talking all day about every single type. I've narrowed it down to three main contenders. Account-based DRM. In the last episode I talked extensively about Uplay, Origin, Steam and GOG. This, along with physical DRM, are the most common for gaming. Inherently, it's not terrible. I'll admit as much as I hate EA and EA's Origin, it learned from Valve that maybe putting a little bit of trust in its customers is a good idea. It's still trying to do that, but still, progress is good. Origin and Steam, and man, I sound like a broken record, both have features that make it worth using. Both have in-game overlays for multitasking, both have bought voice chat, both have offline modes and sales, Steam more than Origin of course, and both need be installed on the host PC for their respective games on their own market. Uplay, like I mentioned last week, is on basically any modern gaming platform, and that's not a coincidence either. The Uplay developers didn't have fun messing around with the SDKs from each company or something, rather Ubisoft puts it in every modern game it's released thus far, even on iOS and Android. That's why it's multi-platform, except Linux of course. It has an offline mode, sure, but it has no extra features of note. But if you want to play Assassin's Creed or Zombie U, you need Uplay. Physical DRM. Firstly, while I said earlier that DVDs are laughably easy to rip, weird parties, a surprising amount of the public don't know how to, which surprises me, actually. This is half the reason why this form of media distribution still exists. Unless you know how to extract a VOD file from a DVD, then you're under the thumb of the aforementioned film and game industries. Of course, that number is growing. More and more people are wising up and making copies of their DVDs to play out and about. A feature on some DVDs that discourage this is the ultraviolet service, a feature you'll find printed on most box sets. Only problem is, it doesn't work on used copies of DVDs and Blu-rays, assuming nobody's used the bundled code, that is, in which case it will work. The other reason why physical discs are still a thing is because it hasn't conformed to the Morpheus effect yet, the idea that a newer, faster and better technology will surpass it in the next generation of its industry. DVDs, Blu-rays and physical game copies coexist with flash storage, such as memory sticks and SD cards. As I said earlier, people like physical copies of stuff, as they sometimes have good box art or have promotions, or hell, even if it is just use the ultraviolet service, a legitimate business decision for some people. Not to mention it's cheap enough to make and it's still financially viable for companies to use. Limited Installation DRM. Clues in the name really, utilised by mostly EA, and as the name suggests, it only allows you to download, install and play a particular game on a limited number of PCs. It does this by keeping a log or a template of what PC parts were used when you first installed the game, and treats that as a master template. Except like with the ultraviolet service, it has a bit of a glaring flaw, because the DRM can't tie itself to the motherboard or RAM, because it'd get picked up as a rootkit by basically every antivirus software ever. It ties itself to either the graphics card or the processor, but some gamers download the game and therefore the DRM that comes with it and change the graphics card, because why would you not, and the DRM counts it as a separate install despite being the exact same PC. This is particularly frustrating for some because, I don't know, the card you bought may not be powerful enough to run the game, or it dies. Take your pick. Note how I didn't say GOG in those three categories, as that is DRM free, which, come on guys, you don't need an explanation for that. Think of dairy free. It's very similar. While DRM is a necessary evil to cut down on pirates, it doesn't have to be associated with them. The number one excuse used by the big names to use DRM is to stop piracy. Note how they always say the word stop, not reduce, stop. Can we stop saying that as well? Because you know full well it won't stop pirates. Slowing pirates down is a truer statement. Stop advertising DRM as an insurmountable brick wall, you guys. In spite of this though, Gabe Newell, I'm saying that by the way because I love the ring of it, famously said, and I quote, "Piracy is almost always a service problem," which holds up to this day. And you know what? He's kinda right. Protecting games from pirates and giving consumers what they deserve is what Valve do. For a pirate to download Portal 2 for example, they'd have to go to a torrent site, find an active torrent and use it. Then go through whatever cracking process you do with Steam games of 2011. If you bought the game legitimately through Steam, all you'd have to do is go to the Steam store page, type in Portal 2 into the search bar, pay for it, download it, and then play it. That sounds longer until you realise that the first step to pirating a game is to find an active torrent. Fine for Fallout 4, a recent game as of speaking, but Portal 2? I doubt it. And the fact that Steam DRM is incredibly hard to crack, because nobody really cracks games from Steam unless they exist on another platform, so it defeats the purpose anyway. Even if the process of buying games from Steam was longer, there are benefits to using it. Put beneficial services in a sort of hub client like Steam, GOG, hell even Origin, then chances are people and ex-pirates will come running to buy your games. It's not difficult logic to understand. Steam is an example of how convenience can beat piracy, not the other way around. And with that, thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this two-part episode, by the way, because I am never doing that again, or singing for that matter. I don't ever want to say the word DRM ever again. Ever. And as the name suggests, it only allows you to download, install and play a particular game on a limited number of PCs. It does this by that's really bad context. You'll remember that I said that the word DRM a lot. I won't go into too much detail on every I can't even say it. You'll remember that I said the word DRM a lot. I won't go into too much detail on every DRM I can't say it more than once, apparently. This, along with physical DRM and